Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, subscribe or follow us, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Ratings and reviews, always appreciated. At ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel Pod on Threads. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm doing well, buddy. I am psyched for the return of women's football, but we're still in transaction season right now, so we always get a little bit of good intrigue during this off time, if you want to call it that. So ready to chat about it.
Absolutely, yep. The dollars were flowing. Lots of comings, lots of goings. Women's Champions League still on break. So let's stay stateside, talk about some of the comings and goings in our home league, the NWSL, and go to a little place I like to call Into the News. Where you want to get started?
I think if we're talking about transfers and signings and player movement in the NWSL, I think we got to start with our old hometown. Gotham FC won the title, maybe to some people, regrettably, over OL Reign. I'll save that for another podcast. But they win the title, and then they decide they're going to try to turn themselves into a Barcelona-like roster. They have had a wave of signings, and let's go in chronological order of their four big signings here. On December 31st, they decided to close out 2023 by signing Crystal Dunn, one of the most incredibly versatile footballers in the history of our country here in the USA. I'm just going to go ahead and reveal my personal feelings here. Crystal Dunn is one of my absolute favorite American footballers ever, I'll just get that out of the way. There's going to be some bias in this, but the bias doesn't really matter because the resume speaks for itself. In college, University of North Carolina, pretty good football program they have down there. She was the ACC, the Atlantic Coastal Conference, Defensive Player of the Year in 2010. And then in 2013, she's the ACC Offensive Player of the Year.
Awesome.
She was the number one overall pick in the 2014 draft. 2015 NWSL MVP, pretty good for a number one pick, I'd say. I'd say that worked out. She was a member of the 2019 FIFA World Cup All-Star team. She was obviously on that team that won the World Cup in 2019 for USA. And in 2021, she was the CONCACAF Player of the Year.
Let's go.
If you think about the way she plays, where do you need her to play? You want to put her at the right wing? Do you want her to be an attacking midfielder, a defensive midfielder? Do you want her to play left back, which she mostly did for that 2019 World Cup team? She could do all that. She's an incredibly intelligent, skilled player on the ball. Her work on the defensive end, I think it was understated at the time the tournament was being played, but she was a massive part of why the 2019 squad was so dominant. Hence all those international accolades that year. She's 31 years old now, but her genius level play has not wavered. She executes really quickly on the ball, which I always appreciate about her game. She makes the decision as the ball's coming to her, it always feels like. Her leadership and the gravity that comes with a player like her, she kind of walks in there and she can become an instant presence to replace the now retired Ali Krieger. There's not much more for me to say about her. How do you experience watching Crystal Dunn play football?
I mean, gravity is a great word for it. And you kind of feel like it's not just on the pitch, but it's also just in the locker room and just as part of the organization. You know, you touched on her resume. I would say probably my favorite stretch of hers. So she won an impossible 6 major trophies between 2017 and 21. In that 5-year period, Dunn took home 2 WSL titles with Chelsea. She only appeared in 15 matches across those 2 championship seasons, but they won the chip. Good for them. 3 NWSL titles, 2 with the Courage, 1 with the Thorns. Again, wherever she goes, they win. And she also found time to squeeze in, the 2019 World Cup, like you mentioned, a tournament in which she started all 6 matches for the USA. And as you rightly pointed out, was named a FIFA World Cup All-Star. So unbelievable signing for Gotham FC, but they were still just getting warmed up.
For sure. One more quick note on Crystal Dunn. I know I'm around the ballpark. The real number doesn't really matter. She returned to play somewhere between 100 and 140 days after she gave birth to her son. So I feel like that is not something to be overlooked as just an unbelievable athletic achievement.
As the father of a current 21-month-old, I had trouble returning to work 140 days after he was born.
I'm saying, dude. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Come on, man.
All right, so next on January 2nd, Gotham, they took January 1st off. They're like, okay, we'll rest this day. On January 2nd, they signed Tierna Davidson, a fullback who has 40 caps for the U.S. women's national team. A fun stat about that, though, is that she has 1 World Cup cap from the 2019 in the group stage versus Chile. USA won that match 3-0, and she chipped in 2 assists. So not bad for your only World Cup cap. She's a solid, experienced defender. She's 25 years old, so still in her athletic prime. Should help really solidify Gotham's back line. I mentioned, obviously, you bring in Dunn, an excellent defender. You could play her at attacking mid or defensive mid, like I mentioned. And then you put Davidson on the back line, possibly to replace Krieger. You're cooking with gas there.
Love that.
And then on January 4th, again, I mentioned at the top, I'm an OL Reign supporter, didn't love the final of the NWSL last season. So this news didn't feel great for me. But on January 4th, Gotham FC signed both Rose Lavelle and Emily Sonnett. I'll just try to quell the deep sigh that I still feel every time I think about that news. But I was at least somewhat prepared for it. The reporting was out there for like a week and a half beforehand that both of those players were likely going to NYC. So Rose Lavelle, I mean, what can you say? She is a creative, confident maestro in the midfield. Despite Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan each having 6 goals for the U.S. women's team in 2019, I will go to my grave defending the position that Lavelle was the best player on that squad. The way she pushed the pace, and part of it is because the defense, they had to account for Morgan and Rapinoe, especially prime Morgan at that time. But Lavelle was just a nightmare pushing the ball forward in those matches. And I just felt like she was kind of like the engine to that entire squad. She moves the ball into the final third. She finds her teammates early in their runs. She finishes when she needs to. And she's just a complete game changer in important moments in matches. Yeah. Emily Sonnett, I think, is like your perfect kind of unsung hero type of footballer as a defensive midfielder. She's won 3 leagues in her professional career, 2017 for the Thorns, 2021 for the Spirit, and one in the middle of those two in 2020 when she played 10 out of 22 matches in the Swedish league, Damallsvenskan, for Kopparberg's Gothenburg, which would later become our pals BK Häcken, currently in the Champions League. So spent some time over in Sweden as well, playing kind of that style of football. And full disclosure, I wasn't following the Damallsvenskan in 2020, so it was cool to kind of stumble upon that information and kind of try to look back at some of it. I feel like you can see that Swedish style in Sonnett's game a little bit. She's gritty, tough, defensive midfielder with a big motor. Her style of play could be summed up by 2 comments that OL Reign forward Bethany Balser left on Sonnett's Instagram post when Sonnett thanked the Reign in Seattle for her 1 season with our club. Balser said in her first comment, quote, "Remember when you told me I was stupid on the field?" And then she followed that up with a second comment that said, "I'll miss you still," end quote.
Oh, I love that.
So those 4 players, we're talking about players with, especially Lavelle and Dunn, even Davidson has 40 caps. Like, we're talking about players with big game, massive spot footballing experience. And I'll say it warms my heart a little bit to see that a lot of the narratives and things that I saw people talking about on social media especially after the Sonnett and Lavelle signings came on the same day. Stuff like Gotham's going to walk to the title. This isn't fair to the league. They're going to ruin the competitiveness of the league. And I like that because I like those silly sports radio narratives. I like a good overreaction. But I feel like we've been watching sports long enough to know rarely do these a big wave of free agency signings end up in just a team walking to the championship.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how often it don't quite work out that way. The signings, I love the signings because all 4 have a little bit more than a tinge of high energy. I think all 4 of those players in different ways can just gun it, can just like go. And now it's all over the field. I don't know. They're going to be tough to handle, even when they're unlucky on those certain days. Just out of sheer energy, willpower, motor, like you mentioned, they're just going to give a lot of people problems. And with regard to that walk to the title kind of narrative, what I found interesting is the NWSL crowns its true champion with a very American-style playoff. Mm-hmm. I went back and looked over the last 10 seasons. Only twice has the team that ended the regular season at the top of the table, or standings, as we say here in America, only twice have those NWSL Shield winners gone on to then win the chip. Mm-hmm. North Carolina Courage in 2018 and North Carolina Courage in 2019. 2019, unreal year for the Courage. They actually had 3 players finish in the top 5 of the MVP voting. Forward Kristen Hamilton came in 3rd, Dabinia in 4th, and ITC All-Star Lynn Williams rounded out the top 5. So on top of all of the NWSL free agency comings and goings, Friday, also a date we've had circled on our NWSL calendars. What do we need to be on the lookout for come Friday evening here in the USA?